Hello, everyone. We welcome you to the first edition of FlytStories, a live talk show focusing on everything that is happening in the drone automation industry and the pioneers who are shaping the future of this industry. I'm Vaishali, and joining me today is my colleague Achal to co moderate this event. So, many of you might be wondering what the thought process behind FlytStories is.
Hey, hello everyone. This is Achal. Nice to see you all. Yeah, let me explain that, Bashali. So, there are a lot of podcasters talking about drones and applications and different stuff, but there are hardly few which are talking about the complete drone automation. So, here is our attempt to help everybody understand and get the concept as well as gain that insight of the industry of how drone automation industry is shaping up, as well as help them understand the complete concept. So like we believe there would be a lot of applications, right? And there are already applications happening where you're flying drone, but there would be a next level of applications that would open up as we have more autonomy into the drones as well as the applications. So what we envision here is the businesses would not only would be building this, but would be implementing the complete autonomous systems. And it's not simply the market or a business transition, but it's a complete mindset shift that is happening. So here's an attempt for our audience so they can understand the complete concept, they can learn about the businesses who are working on that and what are the problems that these businesses are solving.
Thanks, Achal, for setting the context and the purpose of this show. Our guest today goes by a similar rationale and would like to show you how you can make this paradigm shift too. A drone enthusiast with a mind of an engineer and a heart of a security professional, he set up to start up Hybrid Thrust in 2019 to provide turnkey deep tech solutions across a variety of industries. With his expertise in autonomous aerial vehicles, he was able to integrate smart sensors with powerful automation technology to create a versatile and deployment-ready system. So what made him take this proverbial leap of faith? What were the various practical challenges involved? Let's find out. So would you please welcome Matteo Baronio? A very good evening to you, Matteo. We are happy to have you on the FlytStories pilot, a show where we focus on unpiloted systems though. Before I dive right in, audience, if you would want Matteo to answer any of your questions, please feel free to type them in or in the Q&A section. Starting with you, Matteo, to kick off our conversation today, I'll start with a popular age-old question. Could you please fill us in with a little about your background?
Yes, thank you, Vaishali, for the introduction and for the invitation. So, my educational background is in pure mathematics and security studies. After both experience in military and private industry, I decided to launch my company, so Hybrid Trust. And I'm active in the drone sensor and HLS industry since 2017 now. So my passion is to build teams and deliver advanced technological solutions to happy end users.
Thank you, Matteo. I'll stop sharing the screen so everybody can sort of see the kind of background that you have with all the systems present. And so what motivated you to start a business in drones? Did you always dream of starting this?
So I maybe I can a bit expand on one of my last experiences before starting this whole adventure. So I worked for one of the major European drone manufacturer companies, and it has been like an excellent opportunity to get exposure to various of the technologies and players of this drone ecosystem. Nevertheless, the approach that I've seen often by some of those players are actually very much product centric, and I've a lot of respect for companies that decide to develop their own product But my finding was that actually the end user requirements were a bit more holistic, and more solution minded rather than product. And for this reason, I was motivated to try to provide something different. The drone ecosystem is a very rich ecosystem and requires therefore to master a lot of different technologies. There are different components and technologies that need to be connected together to deliver and create some value. So that's one of the main motivations.
Well, that does make sense, Matteo. But by founding CyberThrust, you would have come across with its own set of challenges. How did you handle them?
Well, when you start, I will not say from nothing, because I had quite a very good exposure before starting my company. But when you start, you have sometimes some expectations from the market, and you can have also wrong expectation. For example, you may expect them some big players. I take, for example, in the security industry, but maybe also in the inspection business or other fields that are now very much, drone minded. You would expect that those bigger players would take some risks on behalf of the others, if I can say like that. This is not always the case, and the reality from the market that I have seen and experienced, at least for Belgium here, is that you see a lot of emerging companies, drone service providers that can challenge actually those bigger companies in the type of services and solutions that they deliver. So once you understand that, and you get over it, you take also some confidence, and you start to really develop your own holistic approach to the whole drone offer that you start to build. And to be really customer centric has been also one of the key elements of our success. Sometimes your customers only want to solve a problem, and you want to sell drones. This is not always what solves the problem. That's sometimes some hard findings that you need to acknowledge, and then try to start to think more solution oriented.
Right. So you have gone your own learning path to do this and learn everything on this. So if we deep dive into your business, right, it is evident that you are focusing on the security solutions, right, and particularly on the drone-based solution. So could you tell us a bit more about what are these offerings? What do you offer?
Yeah. So as you understood from one of my first answers to your questions, is that we are not believers that there is like one solution that solves it all. So we strongly believe that the solution to most of the issues are often a combination of various approaches, various technologies, and for this reason we are not like offering one single product. So in our offering, we can focus on drones, but not only. We are very much interested in general about advanced robotics. If you take an example here in Belgium, if you take as example a country here like Belgium, we have 200 rainy day per year. So it's quite obvious that in terms of business continuity and offers for surveillance, or maybe also for inspections, routines, you cannot rely 24/7, 360 days a year on drones. And this is what motivated us to diversify our approach to robotics, not only centered around drones, even if it's one of our main expertise. So that's a bit one of the first aspects of how we address the market. One transversal component to those various robotics platform are, of course, the sensors. So through various projects that we had the opportunity to work on, we developed specialistic expertise with electro-optics, infrared, radars, hyperspectral, multispectral, so all these specialistic payloads that offer various use cases depending on the end user requirement, and that can be adapted to a context to another. So we really developed some knowledge with some suppliers and vendors of those sensors, and this is definitely one of our know-how in-house here, because for the simple reason that, as I mentioned earlier, the drone ecosystem is a very rich ecosystem, and another of those findings that you learn quite quickly is that you cannot make it alone. So one of the big mistakes is to try to do all by yourself, and that doesn't work out. So you need to have those, let's say, technological partners in those different type of technologies. Smart sensors is one of them, but also the software platforms. We have also some specialistic expertise in all what is related to counter UAV, so anti-drone. Of course, when you know very good a system, you understand also how it works deeply from various angles, also from hostile employment and for all the safety implications. So this is really our focus: is the robotics, the sensors, the counter UAV, so the anti-drone systems, and the relevant software platform to operate all these solutions together. So you can imagine this provides a lot of insights, a lot of inputs that you need to aggregate and make actionable for end users, and that you can only do with robust platform as well. And all this knowledge that we collected, and we all this knowledge that we acquired through this journey, we now master it in a way that we are able to empower other organizations to use one or another solution. And so you cannot have a dedicated training and more consultancy alike department in your organization if you want to, also demonstrate that you know what you're talking about. So we do also trainings. We did various projects also that were only focused on training to educate some drone departments of various organizations to use a drone for specific applications.
Right.
So that's the main aspects of our offering. We do some R&D, but we think there is already a lot of solution existing. You will always need to test some components, maybe produce a spare part or something like that. So we have a discrete R&D capability as well. We can completely assemble and build drones as well, but it's not our primary, it's not our core business, let's say.
Right. So Matteo, when did you start this, and was the plan from starting this, or did you do a lot of pivots in between to arrive at this? I'm sure there's so much to learn from your business for other businesses as well. So if you can give us an insight about that.
Yeah, so to be honest, it all started more like a consultancy activity. Why? Because the first motivation that I had was really to be more solution oriented. And so why I became solution oriented, because I understood in my previous position that I had to to find the right solutions for the right problem. And this is not something that usually is done out of a single product. And for this reason, that has really been the driver that enabled me to learn about all various components of this drone ecosystem, and to live out of my know-how, if I can say. then when you start to fly by your own wings, you try to industrialize actually that know-how and develop your own solutions. So this has been then the new business model, if I can say. If I need to compare how we started in 2019 and now 2 years later, what we are doing, that's pretty much how it changed over time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, maybe another point I can raise is that in the start there was this consultancy aspects that were important, and you still need to provide some concrete solutions, to problem that can materialize in a piece of hardware. But we have really seen that now, like 4 years ago, when you would sell, I will give an example, a Phantom 4, customers would ask you to see it flying, now you can buy like I don't know, a DJI M300 online and you receive it, and I mean it works and it flies, and what it's capable of. So now the requirements of customers, I need to say the end users and the consumers of the drone technology, more and more become educated on the capabilities of those smart tools, as I like to call them, and come with more holistic requirements as well. So there are some very important pillars to the whole dronification, as we like to say. One of those is, for example, connectivity. You need to have connectivity for a reliable connectivity, because the sensor produce heavier and heavier data. For example, you need to have safety by design, because your operation becomes more and more specialistic, applied to some very particular context that require some type of security and safety by design. So you see that there is an evolution, really very, very little amount of fear of the end user requirement and of what the solution covers in terms of scope today. Another aspect that is important in this evolution is the pricing. So I really see two major trends when I look at our customer base. Everything like government agencies, law enforcement, military, and so they are more eager to actually purchase the systems. On the other hand, the industrial customers, they are very keen in having actually buying a service. This is very much depending also on the capex, opex procurement models that an organization can have. But this is not only due to this aspect. We really see that there is a very fast evolution of the technology, from the aspects of the endurance, so the way your tools are, your smart tools and drones are powered, or the resolution of the sensor. I'm just giving some example. And for this reason, organization wants to stay up to date without losing the total cost of ownership in a very little amount of time. So the leasing and rental models become also really trendy, if I can say, and this requires to have solution providers that are like their one-stop shop for all the dronification chain that they are looking for to achieve their own goals, of course. So that's another change that I can see in the last years from our operation. And what was before like piloting services by you would an organization would order piloting services for execute a piloting mission, will become more and more like traditional managed services like we have in IT industry, for example. So this gives you, like, when you are achieving this and that you are able to deliver this whole dronification chain, this puts you actually in an ideal posture for developing actually then your own R&D. And this is a bit something that we didn't do in the past, but now that we are more and more we have some patent pending stuff. I will not elaborate too much. Maybe I will explain in the next minutes what we have developed in-house. But once you are really close to the customer and to the customer requirement, that gives you the best posture to really develop something useful. What I've seen from a lot of drone players is that they go the other way around. So they come with a solution that they developed and they try to fit it to the market. But it doesn't work like that. But the product and the technologies are still so new to some organizations that you need to go through this learning and actually really identify where are opportunity to position your smart tools.
Thanks, Matteo. That was very insightful, I think, for all our audience here today. You did mention on multiple occasions about smart payloads and integrations that are required to make a complete solution work, to make drones pilot free. So what kind of products are you currently working on with CyberThrust? I can already see a bunch of
that
products.
Was a bit of course for the show. So we are really much believing in this drone in a box solution. So we find ridiculous that this let's say robotization, automatization of the industry, the so-called Industry 4.0, we will place like behind each robot a human being. Then this whole unmanned industry stays manned actually, and this is not really that what we are looking for by using drones. And also from the point of view of the costs and pricing, if you look at daily rates of pilots, you see sometimes, you hear sometimes some absurd figures which are not sustainable from a business model when you are on the side of the consumer of the service. So what we find really exciting and interesting about this automatization and drone in a box solution is that you are not that much encroaching the business of the manned, of the traditional drone pilot that are required to perform one or another task of inspection, which is punctual and maybe that requires some very specific ability. While for a lot of missions, either in surveillance or in routine inspection, the job is always the same. And these drone in a box solutions, they allow to really lower the cost of this routine inspection or this permanent surveillance, and to make to make the operator not anymore like an observer, but like a decision maker, rather than staying there and doing the I don't want to say like a dumb job, but to follow the drone on a screen and so on. So what we see is really to cover the whole automatization chain, starts from the drone in a box, goes upon the smart sensor that is embedded in the drone, and from there then we empower the operators in a new way. So that's a bit our philosophy and where we see those drone in a box solution fit. So this is definitely one of the solutions that we propose. But as I mentioned earlier, we are more looking at a robotics platform in a general way. So I repeat, Belgium, it's 200 rain days per year. So we are looking also at the diversification of the robotic platform, but always with this principle of automation. That's one thing. then also to have these various payloads that are smart enough to allow you through artificial intelligence, machine learning, and so on, to to give you some warnings and situational awareness without needing you to stay permanently on the screen like an observer. What we also are offering is a wide range of what we call unattended sensor. I will succeed. So by unattended sensor, we mean sensor that can actually work in collaborative scenarios with an unmanned platform, like a drone in a box. We are thinking about radar stations or seismic sensors and so on, fence motion detectors and things like that can actually trigger and through a centralized software and command and control interface, they can actually trigger some reaction from your unmanned platform and be like the first unmanned person on scene, for example. So those are the projects that we are working on and that we are actually promoting in our approach to end users. So the last but not least, and this is something we have developed in-house, so it's a swarming platform. So when we talked earlier about costs and reducing, the first step is, if I can say, reducing the cost of the daily rate of the pilot that comes to do regularly an inspection when it's not needed by a drone in a box. The second thing that will reduce those costs and act as a force multiplier is definitely the use of collaborative solutions, collaborative unmanned solution. And this, I'm of course talking about swarming. So swarming is something we strongly invested in. We have our own swarming platform that can allow us already for a limited set of application to autonomously have drone performing some type of activities in collaborative scenarios. By collaborative scenarios, I really want to make a strong statement here about the difference between swarming and formation flight. So the light and sound exhibitions that we see with a lot of drones, those are formation flights. They are not swarms. Swarm involve a certain level of intelligence and collaboration and undeterministic situation to which the swarms are a swarm of drones or unmanned platform are confronted. And what we did actually is we developed some special algorithms to address very particular situation. For example, in the context of surveillance and patrolling drones. So we embed some kind of intelligence, artificial intelligence into those swarms, and that requires a lot of investment also into the whole simulation environments that are used to train those swarms. I can make a quick digression also into virtual reality and so on. So we also use 3D virtual engines like Unity to develop those type of environments so that our swarms can learn and can adapt to one or another solution. So this, to come back to the discussion about the pricing, once you have this first step between the pilot to the unmanned solution with the drone in a box, and then that you have this replication in a form of swarm, you can definitely achieve a lot of application. Imagine if you do a job with one drone, and if you do it with 10 drones, you do it with 10 times less time. So this is really the type of application that we are aiming and believing in. That's part of what we do in Cybertrust.
Thanks again, Matteo. You've most definitely covered my follow-up question, which was around what kind of value you add to the customer's business. So you mentioned how autonomous drones work as force multipliers. They reduce costs. They allow operators to not just be more visual observers, but also like important decision makers. I'll just move on to the next question. So what kind of customers are you currently working with? Like what industries do they fall in?
Yeah, this is a very interesting customer because by preparing this session, I try to put up how do you say a slide with our customers and some reference, and was not the goal to elaborate on which customer we have, etc. But in the end, I noticed in this preparation that we actually serve various types of industries. So this seems quite obvious, but there is an underlying complexity in all this, because we need to be able to speak the language of each of those customers. Some of those customers, when I look at the more, let's say, security related business, are of course law enforcement, firefighters, emergency agencies. We worked also with international organizations. Those customers have very specific requirements. They are operatives. They are actually not wanting to become an engineer to be able to carry their main and first task. That's one of the, I want to say, that's one of the for sure one of the characteristics of those type of organizations. On the other hand, when you work, for example, with inspections companies, what they are really interested in is in the quality of the data. The quality of the data, the safety of the execution. They have all different requirements, and sometimes you are actually providing them like you might be in a situation where you are providing exact same solution. So those are the type of organization that we work. We have inspection companies as customers. We have drone manufacturers, also drone service providers, consultancy companies. And what I see more and more is also MNOs, so mobile networks operators. Those customers, I think they really understood at this moment that the connectivity component has a role to play in the whole how do you say dronification. I think in general also in the industry 4.0. But some other companies, like for example insurance companies, we didn't have a lot to do with those type of end user. But already the type of organization I just cited, like 5-6 completely different type of profile of end user and customer, and each of these are actually speaking their own language, if I can say so. We are quite proud of that, because you need to be able to talk to all those various organizations. And some if you put yourself maybe in the position of a hardware or a product centric supplier, they sell their product, and you do whatever you want with it, and it's not their business. This is really not the approach that we have. We are really customer centric, and each of those organization and type of organization, we are able to talk their language, and this is definitely one of our strong points. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, you did. So do you have any anecdotes or stories from the different customer deployments in the EU region that you would like to share with us?
Some of the jobs we have done are, because we are talking sometimes about services, so you are acting on behalf of your customer, delivering, so you have some confidentiality also about the missions that you do. But something I can definitely share is I had the chance to kickstart the first projects that were not proof of concept, but were really in production, and that lasted for more than a year. in Belgium about BVLOS flights by night for surveillance of a particular asset and critical infrastructure. So I need to say that, 2-3 years ago, when you started this type of projects, we had to go through the whole process to get all those authorizations, airworthiness certificates of the fixed wing platform that we deployed, and so on. And it was quite a challenge that we overcome. But the point that I want to make is that now with the new European regulation, because you talked about you mentioned like this EU market, the new EU regulation is quite changing some interesting points, notably in the BVLOS and in this exact same type of operation that I had the chance to carry some years ago. For example, in one of our neighboring countries, I think in the Netherlands, they already and also actually in France as well, they developed some standard scenarios to execute exactly this type of jobs. So this is really interesting, and it really shows that that there is an evolution that I have really seen through concrete contracts in the way they can be executed. So that's an interesting interesting project that we worked on, that costed a lot of effort, and that now got completely, let's say, rationalized, if I can say it like that. Another example that is really, I think, also good hint for the future drone service providers maybe that are listening, is about sometimes you have a tunnel vision. What I mean by tunnel vision is that I've been in a situation where I wanted to provide like a confined space inspection by drone. And so, when you are in this tunnel vision, that you are a drone service provider, sometimes you tend to absolutely propose a system that will solve all problems of the customer. But even as a drone service provider, sometimes you need to understand that maybe the drone is not the solution to your problem, and that's something that you need to be humble enough to acknowledge. And if you take this posture towards a customer, in the end, the customer wants only that you solve his problem. It's not really, it's not a matter of using drones or not. And in that particular context, we found out that the best solution that minimized cost, safety issues, and so on was simply to put a high-resolution camera on a pole to inspect an asset. And these are the things that this is a nice, interesting anecdote, I believe, that quite highlight the message that I wanted to bring on the table here. That is the fact that sometimes you have this tunnel vision, you want absolutely to propose a solution, but it's not the right one. So I think with those two examples of the past experience, I answered your questions.
Great. So, Matteo, I have a question on the similar line. So you touched upon a really good point in terms of focusing on the problems that customer has, and even figuring out what is the best way to solve it and automate that. So there would be a lot of people who would be listening this podcast in the future. It could be potential customers who would listen to. So what makes you stand out? What makes CyberTrust stand out in a way where why should these customers or companies should come to you for these kind of solutions?
Well, one thing is that we have a very transversal expertise, and this is actually a bit a manifestation, and how do you say it? This is really highlighting our mindset, in the sense that I have seen drone companies going bankrupt because they try to develop their own GPS, just to make a point, And what does it tell us is that, you if you want really to differentiate yourself and bring some value to the customer, you need, as much as possible, try to do what the others are not doing. That seems pretty obvious, of course. But that will not happen by trying to reinvent the wheel. So what we do is that we try as much as possible not to get entangled in a particular system or ecosystem. And what we really try to do is to have like an agnostic approach to the solution that we provide. And yeah, the drone in a box solution that we use, the software solution that we use are a bit the reflect of that. So we are very interested in open architectures. Our solution works with DJI drones, with non-DJI drones, with Pix4 based drones. Yeah, we try to stay agnostic with as much of the components of our solutions as possible, and to adapt to the customer. That's definitely one of our differentiators. Another thing is those transversal competence and know-how that we have allow us to connect the technological dots sometimes in ways that maybe other companies don't think about. Let me explain. This is also very much to do with our more like how do you say, security background, etc. All the solutions that we propose, we first of all try to see what are the weaknesses in the solution that we propose. The idea, we have already a lot to do with cyber security, of course. So our goal is not to increase the attack surface by providing even more complex solution when the trade-off, if I can say, is not there, and the cost benefit is not there. That's very important. And what you see is that some companies sometimes, they develop their own product, and then they get entangled in what they are doing, that they miss sometimes opportunities because of that. And this is again an encouragement to foster collaboration about between all those various components of this drone ecosystem, the various players, because you can definitely not make it alone.
Right, that's a valid point, right? And again, to bring that solutions together, you'd have to focus and get the right components in place and then innovate on top of it.
Yeah, if I may add just one thing, Ashal, about this last point that you make, that I forgot to mention, is actually when you are actually having this mindset and approach, it allows you also to focus on what the other are not focusing, of course. For example, just to cite an example, we are really much looking into what's going on, for example, in quantum computing, in quantum in the whole quantum revolution that is ongoing at a slow pace, of course. But why is that? Because there are already some kind of applications that are existing by using drones for self-defined or ad hoc quantum networks, and when you are not busy to do what the other are, what 10 other companies are already doing, of course you can look a bit, have a bit more foresight in what will be the new trend and so on. And I'm not excluding that at one point Cybertrust will take a more specialistic approach in a niche, but my firm belief is it needs to go from this more holistic approach toward maybe a specialistic. And the difference with other companies that some of them are doing actually the opposite way. So it decreases somehow a bit, unless you are really that unicorn. And as I mentioned, every day there is a new drone company. So right. it diminishes a bit your how do you say, potential of bringing added value if you're doing what the other do as well.
Right. So as this commercial drone market is enlarging, right, it is at large growing, right? What is your current understanding? How do you envision things are happening in say Belgium or EU for the world, where how a customer, somebody who is maybe already using a drone manually, would constantly adapt to the changing things that are happening, or maybe other drone businesses.
I need to say first of all that the change, I'm not expecting the change to come from the users of the technology, of course, because they will get what companies like ours or other drone service provider or drone manufacturers or sensor manufacturers are currently working on, but there are some key drivers, I would say, that will definitely impact the future. Look at, for example, the computation power, the GPUs, CPUs, and so on. We are getting to more and more smart and powerful artificial intelligence and autonomous systems. So that will definitely push forward the whole automation chain. But pushing forward this automation chain will come with some new challenges. How do you certify systems of autonomous function? We are already barely managing to having like cyber range established and things like that. Well, you will need to have some artificial intelligence range also to test autonomy. This is things that are not existing, at least for solution like unmanned platform deployed in very specific contexts. So how do you test that? That's definitely one of the point that will come in the future. Another thing is how do you certify a system? If we look at this, and what is, I like to do the parallel with like the IT industry and the cyber industry and so on. There are some standardization that occur and some certifications like ISO and so on. So at one point you will try to reach a certain level of interoperability between all those systems if you want to make it also sustainable on the long term and standardized. And one thing that is also missing, as I might have mentioned it as well, is center of excellence, like an authority that is actually collecting this knowledge, not from necessarily from an industrial point of view, but more like at European level or whatever, and that actually partners, of course, with industry and so on, but that is a real center of excellence, like we have done with other type of technologies or other fields. So that's some of the things that that comes to my mind at the moment. The more you will, the security component of all those solutions will remain also very relevant. If you look at some of the things that are happening really at the semiconductor level, with the new instruction set architectures that are existing. So these type of things are also moving very fast and could be enablers also of granting new level of security for this autonomous system. From the side of the risk management as well, those new technologies will require specialistic expertise to conduct a new type of risk assessments, because all of this is still relatively new, and it accumulates like a snowball and becomes bigger and bigger. And maybe those new risk assessments will also require artificial intelligence to be performed themselves, because at one point you reach a quantity, there is a limited quantity of information that we can process, and so those methodologies will need to be reviewed, as well as the training methodologies on this whole technology. technologies related to the ecosystem of autonomy and unmanned platform in general. So we will see probably we will continue to see huge investments in these fields, and this is really good for us, of course, even if at the moment we are still fully self-funded. But it's quite an exciting industry to be or to join for the future.
Right. So on the same line, again, if we see your vision, right, where does this industry would go? Of course, you're looking this at a very close, right? You're very close to the customers, the technology, right? You touched upon few points, but how do you see the market evolving, right? Where are we going from here?
Yeah, at one point there will be like probably some type of protocols and architectures that will become like a standard. That's something that will for sure happen. Maybe we could say that to some extent it's already happening. That's one of the things that I see coming. Maybe if you can re-ask me the question. I think I lost you.
Sure. So my question was around how do you see it evolving? You are one of the companies who are very close to this technology, right? So where do we go from here, right? What is future holding for us?
That's difficult to say. I think that there is, from my position, not that much I can add to what I previously said, in the sense that the industry itself is very dynamic. Every day I see something new that is interesting, so it's difficult to make prediction. I think, as I just mentioned, that there will be some rationalization of some of the components, like interfaces, protocols, and so on. That's something that will be required at a certain point to industrialize all across, I will say, Europe or the world, this use of technologies, and also to have same standards from a place to another. And we did already a great thing here in Europe with this new regulation. Some might argue about that, but at least it's something harmonized, more or less. Then the whole certification of autonomy is a very big piece of what's coming, because for some application you will want to ensure that your systems are operating in a certain way, ethical way, and things like that. So and safety. I really think that there is a very interesting parallel of what is going into the automotive industry, and in particular also about the type of the electrification of the whole automotive. Electrification or hydrogen or whatever. But there is a very interesting parallel between what is going on there and what is going on in the drone industry. As you might know, here in Belgium, following the change of regulation, we still have like a third category that is like the certified category, that is most likely the one that will manage all the drone, the manned aviation with drones, if I can say like that. And maybe this whole thing that is happening in the automotive industry will be a trigger also to have very soon like a drone deployed for person transportation. And I would love to come to my office by drone and avoid the traffic jam. That maybe we will live in the period where we will see this happening, and I really, why not? So there are those things that will come maybe in the future, and that will require also a more robust and foundational how do you say foundational backbone for the whole ecosystem, so that is robust enough to allow those new applications and those new developments.
Right. No, yeah, that's a correct point, because we have that vision of having a air taxi. Urban mobility is a different topic altogether. We have vision of that Jetsons, where you can fly in your air taxi and reach to office. But and you made a really good point in terms of what is happening in the automobile industry, automation industry, right? What took cars to be autonomous years, the rate of change is much higher now. Right, so cars have been around for 150 years, and now we are seeing automated cars, autonomous cars coming in, and that market and electric revolution that has been happening right now. With drones, that is going to happen much faster, right? Where we are already right now talking about this industry is like what, 5 years, 7 years old, where we started using these drones, and now it's going to happen much faster.
Yeah, I could argue to that, Ashal, that yeah, somehow in our subconscious, we have all seen Star Wars since we were little, and in our subconscious, we have seen those drones and those robots since already 20, right, 30, 40 years, thank you, Frank Lucas, but yeah, this might happen actually, and yeah, it will require, of course, it's not a movie, and yeah, still compared between automotive and aerial application, usually like the safety and mission critical aspects of aerial applications are much more stronger, and if you add on top of that some autonomy, yeah, then there is still a lot of work to be done to get to that point, but we are definitely in that direction.
Right. Mm-hmm.
To add to Achal and Matteo, you've already shared a lot of insights. However, do you have any advice for young budding entrepreneurs who are starting a business in drones or trying to achieve complete dronification? Do you have any advice for them?
Yeah, it's a very difficult thing to say, because you need to keep a very good, and this is the whole difficulty in this particular industry, which is very dynamic. You need to keep a good balance between actually the amount of information that you need for your particular interest in the technology and in the employment of this technology. But at the same time, if you discover this industry and that you want to get into it, I would definitely advise to be exposed to as many technology as possible. I mean, when I say as many technologies as possible, I mean, of course, technologies that are relevant to the drone ecosystem. But as I mentioned, this drone ecosystem sees so many different interrelationships and players that address one or another aspect of it, that it makes it a very to become today a drone expert, you really need to wake up very early, so yeah, that would be definitely an advice, but with moderation, but to be exposed to as many technology as possible, and also know what are your strong points. So if you are coming from a very specific background, I will give a simple example. If you are an archaeologist, yeah, well, I'm not an archaeologist. I will never be an archaeologist, and I will never know archaeology better than any archaeologist. But if an archaeologist will start a drone business, he will definitely have an insight in some specific application that someone like me would never thought about, and he could try to shape that and tailor made it to his own expertise and connect the dots, as I mentioned earlier, between technologies that are relevant to his specific expertise. This might sound obvious, of course, but what I see a lot in this drone industry, and I will take the example of photogrammetry. Everyone thinks that photogrammetry, is maybe, fly your Phantom 4, capture the data, plug it in Pix4D or Agisoft, and get an output. Well, you see a lot of a lot of drone specialists or drone companies or drone drone pilots that operate this way, while they are not expert in photogrammetry. But so if you get into that direction, you might actually not seem credible actually, and you will actually deliver biased data. And so you really definitely need to know what are your strong points and try to industrialize it by connecting the dots, but in a very defined scope that is the one that you are familiar with, and where you can bring the most value. Now that doesn't prevent you, of course, to have always a 360 degree and vision and stay connected to the whole ecosystem. But this would be definitely the way I would proceed if I would have this specialistic expertise in a way or another. And otherwise, yes, as I mentioned, stay exposed to as many technology as possible. Follow the news related to this industry, and launch yourself. Yeah, there is a lot of information available now. Yeah, that's another thing. Now you could very easily find resource and cost-effective hardware to build your own drone, for example. That's a very important thing to be able to do, I think, at least if you want to go into the more product development journey. So to have a hands-on approach, be exposed to as much technology as possible, and know your strengths, and don't reinvent the wheel.
Right. And that's a really valid point. And I think Vaishali would not Matt and I. She holds a major in GIS. That she can understand what is the difference actually when you actually go to do photogrammetry and what the technologies that you're using. Great. So I think we can go on and talk about these topics. So let me just close with a final question out here. So if you'd like to summarize everything, right, your past experience, the advice that you would give it to your younger self, as well as your future customers who could be listening to this podcast, right? If you could give us that idea that what puts CyberThrust in the best place to work with these customers, I think that would be a good concluding thought.
So one thing, as I just mentioned, not to reinvent the wheel, but also to be flexible, in your approach to the customer, and try to find solution, not to sell your product. Also, there is a part of risk. Sometimes you need to take risks and invest in some niche technologies, and you don't know that those might be actually leading you to the development of the next breakthrough in one or another application, and no one else will do it for you. You could really think that maybe very big organizations are actually at the forefront of this whole dronification stuff, and how do you say, and the ecosystem, but it's not really like that. There are sometimes very small companies that are really knowledgeable on what they do, and they took risks, and now they are really successful. So if there is one thing that I definitely learned, is that this world dronification shortens the path to a lot of things. I just like to give an example. If you are selling like a product or a solution that everyone else is selling, or that is already on the market since a long time, and you try to approach a customer, that there are thousands others that are doing the same than you. But if you come with something new, and especially the drones, when you come in an organization and you bring a drone, even today there are still people who have never seen a drone, so that gets sometimes quite the engagement of very high decision makers in an organization. So you really need to believe in yourself, and try to capture those markets with your own vision and your own strengths, and to be flexible, just not to get entangled in one or another thing, one or another technology that I mentioned, and get credit for the work that you do. I gave you the example. There are people 4 years ago, they will ask you to see a Phantom 4 flying. Now it's not anymore the case. But at the same time that the drone application become more sophisticated, you will still encounter those persons that will want to see the results and what actually you are capable of. And so you will need to go to proof of concept and test, a lot of testing and crashing, and and get credit for the success that you do. Document it. And one thing that I learned also is you need to have references. If you are the first to do some particular application, just document it, get the references and certificate of good execution of what you did, and that will definitely be helpful, because especially if you are the first to do some of those new applications that drones enable.
Mm-hmm.
That was all for my recommendation.
And just to add, in terms of the businesses that should reach out to you, right? What kind of businesses should reach out to you for these kind of applications or use cases?
I think a security organization or industrial organization that aim at automatize and streamline some of their processes can definitely come to us. But also, I think it's always good to have a chat and to frame specifically what are the requirements of an organization and start from there, rather to come to be like selling one or another product. We had, I think, at this stage sufficient exposures in the drones application to be able to be trusted advisors on things related to drones. So you can more or less reach out for anything all around drones or anti-drones as well, sensors and drones operations and so on.
Great. Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Matteo and Achal as well. Today's session was indeed an attestation to the fact that the autonomy is going to be the future and shaping the future of the drone industry. To summarize, navigating the competitive and technological advanced drone automation industry might involve a lot of changes and iterations in the business model, like you clearly pointed out, Matteo. So innovation is always going to be the key. We also learned that we have to constantly network with different players and form partnerships so as to offer integrated solutions. And the bottom line is, don't be afraid to take necessary risks and always bring something unique to the table. So thank you for all such valuable lessons, Matteo. And Achal, if you would like to add anything to this, the floor is yours.
Right. I would just like to thank Matteo to spend this hour with us. It's more than an hour, and sharing this insight. It's been great to work closely with Matteo on these drone solutions, the technology we are working on, as well as we look forward to working together to solve more problems for the customers and the users forward. So thank you, Matteo. Thanks for spending time with us today.
It was my pleasure. Thank you everyone for participating.
Great.
Also, if you'd like someone, if you would like us to bring someone over as a show, in the show as a next guest, then do let us know in the chat box. We are also very hungry for feedback. So do let us know if you would like to cover anything that we haven't already. Feel free to write to us on let's talk at flightbase.com. I'll just drop that in the chat box. And until the next episode of Flight Stories, this is Vaishali.
And signing off. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.